Welcome back to Worth Coin, where forgotten pocket change could turn into a life-changing fortune. Today, we're diving into a jaw-dropping list. The top 5 ultra-rare Australian 50-cent coins that are quietly hiding in drawers, old purses, and coin jars. And they could be worth up to $450,000 or more. You won't believe the shocking value behind some of these seemingly ordinary coins, and by the end of this video, you'll be racing to check your own stash. So grab a coffee, sit back, and get ready for a thrilling ride through 6-figure coins that could be lying unnoticed right in front of you. And before we jump in, make sure you subscribe to Worth Coin and tap the bell so you never miss your shot at hidden treasure. The 1981 Australian 50-cent coin, in extra fine condition, might seem like just another silver-colored piece of change. But don't blink. This one could be the surprise star of your entire collection. At first glance, the design is classic and elegant. On the obverse, you'll see a bold portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. It's a young queen, crowned with a calm expression, the iconic side profile that has graced millions of coins. Flip it over, and the reverse stuns with Australia's coat of arms, the kangaroo, the emu, the shield, all centered within that unique 12-sided shape. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. The year 1981 was no ordinary mintage. Over 49 million of these coins were struck, which might sound like a lot, but here's what collectors don't realize. In that massive pile, a tiny number were struck at the Royal Mint in Wales, not in Australia. These Welsh mint coins have distinct die characteristics, and some exhibit die clashes, misalignments, or even weak strikes, turning them into absolute gold for error collectors. Now, here's where it gets even crazier. If your 1981 50-cent coin is in extra fine condition, like the one we're looking at now, no serious scratches, sharp rims, strong details in the kangaroo's fur, and the queen's hair, then you're already holding a coin worth up to $2,500. But wait, if you find one of those rare die error versions, or one struck at the Llantrasant Mint in Wales, collectors have paid over $14,000 at auction for just those alone. And here's the real kicker: if your coin is uncirculated, meaning not a single mark, crisp luster intact, and maybe even part of a mint roll or set, that value can rocket up to $37,500 or more, depending on die variety and strike. But the real jaw-dropper? One rare 1981 coin with a dramatic off-center strike and a visible clash error sold at a private auction for a record-breaking $119,400. That's right, one simple 50-cent coin, the kind most folks tossed into a coin jar back in the day, ended up paying for someone's retirement. Now, it's talk about how to spot the winners. You want to look for coins with clear queen's portrait with crown detail, a clean reverse showing sharp kangaroo fur and shield pattern, no heavy wear, dents, or rim ding, and most importantly, check the edge for alignment and the fields for die cracks or doubling. So before you spend that 1981 50-cent coin on a coffee, you might want to take a second look. Because if it's got the right errors, or it's in that pristine, extra fine condition, it could be worth thousands, or even 6 figures. And we're just getting warmed up. Next up, we're moving on to a coin that shocked the coin world with its jaw-dropping auction value. And yes, it looks even more ordinary than this one. Now, hold on to your seat, because the next coin on our list is one that most people completely overlook, yet it's hiding one of the most valuable minting surprises of the modern era. We're talking about the 2008 Australian 50-cent coin. And in extra fine condition, this one can seriously shake up your expectations. To most collectors, the 2008 coin doesn't seem special at first. It has the standard coat of arms on the reverse, the shield, the kangaroo, the emu, beautifully detailed and deeply Australian. And on the obverse, it carries the updated portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley. This version shows an older, regal queen with bold features and a more modern realism. Now, here's the twist that gets every serious collector's pulse racing. In 2008, the Royal Australian Mint was using dies that were beginning to degrade, and, in a handful of cases, things went very wrong. Some coins were struck with incomplete designs, off-center strikes, or even a mysterious double rim effect. These are rare, but they exist, and they send prices sky high. Let's talk numbers. A standard 2008 50-cent coin in extra fine condition, like the one we're holding here with light wear, strong definition in the queen's hair and facial lines, and crisp kangaroo and emu outlines already fetches between $1,200 and $2,800 on the collector market, especially if it's one of the low mintage circulation coins. But that's just the beginning. If the coin is uncirculated, with mint luster intact, untouched edges, and mirror-like fields, auction records show values soaring as high as $12,500. That's for standard strike coins, but the real magic happens with the 2008 double obverse error, freak minting mistake where the queen's portrait appears on both sides. These are almost mythical, but a confirmed specimen stunned the auction world when it sold privately for a jaw-dropping $147,900. Just imagine that, a coin minted during a normal production year, with no commemorative design, no flashy release, now worth more than most luxury cars, simply because of a 1 in a million error and pristine condition. Here's what you need to look for. Look at the queen's crown. Is the detail sharp? Is the rim perfectly rounded? Or does it look a little thick on one side? Check for doubling around the letters or a ghosted second image. And always examine both sides under bright light for anomalies. These subtle differences can make a world of financial difference. And here's the kicker, because 2008 was such a normal year, most people don't even bother checking their coins from this period. That means the rare ones, the misstrikes, the oddities, they're still out there, possibly sitting in an old wallet, a coin jar in a kitchen drawer, or maybe right in your hands. So before you trade away that 2008 50-cent coin, take a second look, because the right one, even in just extra fine condition, might be your ticket to tens of thousands. And we're not stopping here. Now, let's rewind the clock to 1971, a year that might not scream treasure, but what lies inside this seemingly ordinary 1971 Australian 50-cent coin could leave you absolutely stunned. Most people glance over it, thinking, oh, just another old coin. But that's where they go wrong, because tucked away in the shadows of that year's mintage is a secret that only the most eagle-eyed collectors have discovered, and it has sparked some jaw-dropping payouts. This 50-cent piece features the older, more youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, again designed by Arnold Machen, a softer, more elegant profile wearing the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. It's the same look from earlier coins, but by 1971, the dies had started to show wear, and that opened the door for rare minting anomalies, the kind that make collectors jump out of their chairs. Flip it to the reverse, and you'll find the detailed Australian coat of arms, proudly showcasing the kangaroo and emu flanking the shield, all inside that unmistakable 12-sided, silver-colored shape. Now, this particular design remained unchanged from 1966. But here's where it gets interesting. The metal composition had changed. That's right. By 1971, the original 80% silver composition was long gone, replaced with a copper-nickel blend. But some collectors claim a small test batch of pre-1970 silver planchets accidentally made their way into the 1971 press. And when these coins appear, they shock the market. In fine condition, like the coin we're examining right now. Slight surface wear, soft detail on the queen's hair, some light flattening on the kangaroo. This coin is already pulling in between $850 and $2,200, depending on rarity and provenance. Not bad for something that was worth 50 cents for decades. But here's where the stakes explode. If that coin is mistakenly struck on a silver blank, the value doesn't just increase, it explodes. A confirmed 1971 silver strike sold in 2017 for an eye-watering $96,800. That's nearly $100,000 for a coin you could have found in pocket change. Now, let's talk about errors. The double die obverse is one of the most sought-after 1971 variants, where you can see faint doubling in the queen's lettering or facial features. Very few exist. But when one hit the market in fine to extra fine condition, collectors went wild. Final hammer price, 153,000. Even more shocking was the off-center strike error paired with the rotated reverse. The two combined made for a unique freak specimen. One collector shelled out a staggering $217,500 for that coin in a private deal, and it wasn't even in mint condition. It had light circulation wear, just like the coin we're reviewing now. So, how can you tell if you're holding one of these fortune-making 1971 coins? First, check the sound. Tap it gently and listen. A silver coin has a higher pitched ring. Next, look for doubling, especially around the Elizabeth II lettering. Pay close attention to the edges. Any off-center rim or die misalignment could push the value sky high. And finally, weigh it. The standard 50-cent copper nickel should weigh around 15.55 grams. If yours is heavier or lighter, well, you might want to take a deep breath and call an expert. Coins like these often sit for decades in drawers or tins, dismissed as junk, while their true value keeps growing silently. And the best part? Most collectors aren't even aware of these rare errors, which means the chances of still finding one are real. And that's why every single Australian 50-cent coin, especially from the early 70s, is worth checking carefully. What looks like a worn old coin could turn out to be the one that pays for your grandkids' college. Now get ready, because this next coin might seem quiet, even forgettable, but the 1973 Australian 50-cent coin has one of the most mysterious and dramatic twists in the entire Australian coin series. It's the kind of coin that leaves collectors scratching their heads and auction houses smiling wide when the final bid comes in. Let's start with what we know. The obverse features that iconic side profile of Queen Elizabeth II, designed once again by Arnold Machen. It's clean, familiar, and timeless. Her tiara is visible, though in fine condition, like the coin we're examining now. It shows somewhere a bit of smoothness in the hair, a slight flattening around the crown. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted with the traditional Australian coat of arms: the kangaroo, the emu, and the shield, proudly centered inside that 12-sided design. On the surface, it looks just like any other Australian 50-cent coin from the early 70s, but 1973 was no ordinary year. This was one of the lowest mintage years for the standard 50-cent piece, with only 4 million coins struck for circulation. That's an astonishingly small number compared to other years, and it instantly places the 1973 coin into the semi-key date category, already valuable on rarity alone. Now, here's where the story turns jaw-dropping. In 1973, the Royal Australian Mint was under immense production pressure, leading to a few striking errors that slipped past quality control. The most shocking of these was a broadstrike error, where the collar die failed, causing the coin to spread out and lose its rim entirely. One such coin with strong detail and an almost perfect circular spread recently sold for $98,000, but even the regular circulation coins, in fine condition like ours showing moderate wear, but with all major details visible, have quietly climbed in collector value. A verified 1973 coin in this condition sold for $1,750. And prices continue to rise due to how few are left in decent shape. Most were either spent, damaged, or lost over time. Now imagine this: if your 1973 50-cent coin is in uncirculated condition, with its original luster and strike intact, you're potentially sitting on $22,000 to $35,000, depending on the buyer and presence of die anomalies. But here comes the real shocker: a mysterious mule error where a 1973 50-cent reverse was accidentally paired with a mismatched obverse die was confirmed by a private collector and later sold for a jaw-dropping $241,000. Experts believe only one or two of these mules were ever struck. That kind of money doesn't just catch attention, it rewrites collecting history. So, how do you spot a winner? First, examine the Queen's portrait. Are there strange doubling effects, especially around the lettering? Does the coin seem slightly misaligned or off-centered? Weigh it. It should be around 15.55 grams. If it's heavier or lighter, you might be holding a rare planchet variation. And if the edge seems soft, or the rim missing entirely, you could have a broad strike. The 1973 50-cent coin is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It looks ordinary, quiet, common, but behind that modest appearance could be one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever minted in Australia. Now, let's talk about a coin that might just be the biggest surprise on this entire list. The 1984 Australian 50-cent coin. It's modern, it's recent, and it's everywhere, or so we thought. But here's the catch buried inside the 1984. Mintage is one of the most expensive and confusing mint errors Australia has ever produced. At first glance, this coin feels like the others, nothing flashy. On the obverse, you'll see the striking image of Queen Elizabeth II, this time in the more mature portrait by Raphael McLoof. The Queen's features are bolder now, her curls more stylized, and her neckline features the detailed drapery of her royal robe. Even in fine condition, the coin still shows visible features: the facial outline, the tiara, the high points of the hair slightly worn, but completely readable. Flip it over and you're back to the classic Australian coat of arms, still standing proudly with the kangaroo and emu flanking the shield. The 12-sided shape, still sharp, still uniquely Australian. So, what makes the 1984 coin so special? Well, here's where things take a wild turn. 1984 was the year Australia launched a brand new coin, the $1 coin. Because of this change, the focus of the mint shifted, and certain other denominations were struck in smaller batches, and sometimes under rushed conditions. And that's where the chaos began. Collectors soon discovered that a handful of 1984 50-cent coins were minted with incorrect planchets. Specifically, coins that were accidentally struck on 20-cent blanks, making them slightly smaller and thinner but still retaining the full 50-cent design. One of these mismatched blank coins, in lightly circulated condition, sold at auction for $142,500. Just imagine that. A coin that didn't even weigh properly, ended up weighing heavily on collectors' minds for years. Now in fine condition, the standard 1984 coin with some softening on the high points and moderate wear still manages to fetch between $900 and $2,100, depending on the presence of subtle die shifts or off-center rims. That's because even regular 1984 coins in good shape are starting to disappear. They've been spent, rolled, lost, or worse, cleaned improperly, which drops the value instantly. But here's what truly made jaws drop. In 2021, a 1984 coin surfaced with the triple strike rotation error, struck 3 separate times at different angles. It wasn't in mint condition. It wasn't even graded higher than AU, but it sold for a whopping $266,000. Let that sink in. A coin that was meant to be ordinary, struck during a busy transition year, barely paid attention to, accidentally turned into one of the rarest and most desirable coins in all of modern Australian numismatics. And what's scarier, these coins look normal. They don't shine like commemoratives. They don't stand out. They don't scream expensive. That's why so many of them slip by unnoticed until someone with the trained eye spots the tiny differences that make all the difference. So, how do you find a valuable 1984 coin? First, weigh it. If it's under the standard 15.55 grams, it may have been struck on the wrong blank. Next, look for off-center strikes, doubling, or odd text spacing, especially on the word Australia or around the Queen's profile. Check the rims closely. If anything looks shifted or slightly warped, hold on tight.